everybody. Hi, Stephen.
Hello. Hey, Vija. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Awesome. That was a good song.
I've been wanting to do this for a long time, Stephen.
I've been wanting you to do it for a long time, Vija. I have
You
to
know
really say really quickly that I'm so excited to be on here with you today. And I just want to tell a 30-second story about your giving heart. I know that we were probably in some meetings in the same room in the past, but I was going to Inman Connect in San Francisco probably 4 or 5 years ago. And I reached out to a closed Facebook and I said, I have nobody to do anything with. I have no idea why I'm going to Inman Connect. Who can help me? And you reached out to me and you said, I've got you, Stephen. And you not only took great care of me in San Francisco, you invited me to group dinners, but you also took me to private, exclusive meetings with vendors that I still have relationships with today. And I just want to thank you for that. I'm sure everybody on here knows what a giving heart you have, but you did that out of soul kindness to a fellow realtor, and thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm a little embarrassed, but thank you for saying it. I know what it's like to be at events and to not know anybody. And so I take that really seriously. So if I say I'm going to take care of you at an event, I'm going to take care of you at an event.
You leveled up to 100%, and I'm still in relationship with a few people in those meetings, and thank you.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. I really am. It was a fun night. You and Sarita hung out for a bit that night. That was a fun night. Oh, good. Thank you. Well, gosh, that's amazing. Yeah, of course. Oh, that was a great Inman. That was the Inman. That was my biggest Inman. That was my the biggest keynote I've ever had in my career was that Inman. And what I remember about that night, Stephen, it's actually a very special night to me, and I would never forget it because it was the night after I had delivered it and I had gotten on stage and shared the biggest fail in my professional career. And I had a moment, and I don't know if you've had, and we can go into it today, where I thought I've either done the best thing I've ever done in my career or I've committed career suicide. I don't know which one, but I know that it's over. And there was a lot of prep because doing a keynote's a lot different than this. It's a different.
And you opened your heart up to everyone.
Yeah.
It certainly was a success in doing that.
It worked out well. And I think the lesson there is people want real. People don't want, they want the real stuff, right?
They want the real stuff.
So I remember that night very well because it was like the night after and it was done. And I was like,
Yeah. We had a margarita to celebrate.
Well, what we actually had and what changed everything was that was my very first frosé. Frosé, by the way, if any of you don't know this, a frosé is a slush rosé, and it is.
That's right. I remember.
Oh, that was so I very much remember that night. Anyway, for those of you who don't know the illustrious, the iconic, the amazing Stephen Cooley, may I please edify you by an introduction? And these are always fun to receive on ourselves, but I'm going to do it anyway. So Stephen Cooley, he leads one of the absolute top real estate teams in the nation. He's certainly in Keller Williams and the brand that Stephen and I are both affiliated with. He's number 6 last year in our entire company, keeping in mind we have 170,000 agents. So Stephen and his team of about 45 or so agents are in kind of the greater Charlotte, North Carolina, and Stephen, the upstate South Carolina area. Is that right?
That's absolutely right, and I apologize for my accent. I know some people probably will have a hard time understanding me.
No, we love your accent. It's lilting. I like it very much. So Stephen, the reason I've wanted to interview Stephen for a long time is, I sort of target people. Like there's 5 or 10 people out there who I'm just dying to interview. One of them is Gary Keller. I'm just going to put it out there. I'm just going to put it out there, right? But so you're up there with Gary Keller, Stephen. So the reason I've been so interested, though, Stephen, in interviewing you is that you've had this, not only the successful team, But ever since I've known you, kind of been in the same orbit as you for years now, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years, you've consistently had a top team. You haven't had the turnovers and the fails I had. You had this very consistent, well-run team, and that's the test of time. Those are the really big, successful business owners. We can all do it for a year or two. To do it decade, or more, to me is fascinating. And I've been wanting to dive in a long time as to kind of what makes you tick, what your what I call DHBs, deeply held beliefs are, and who you are as a leader, how you show up, what's important to you. And so that's why I've just wanted to really explore that. When you've done what you've done for as long as you've done it, there is some gold there, my friend. So that's why.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll pan through the dirt and find a little gold today, maybe.
I think we will. So I don't want to spend, a lot of time on doing the whole biographical thing today, because I kind of want to get into the meat of the business and the business philosophy. With that said, I do kind of want to start at the beginning a little bit. Just, you're from the Carolinas, if I recall.
Yeah.
So walk us through, you, Stephen, through when you got into real estate, right? What did you do? And just kind of walk us through, if you wouldn't mind, your career up to getting into real estate. And then I'd love to just kind of have an overview of like what got you from, the beginning of real estate to where you are now.
Yeah, so I went to college in the town that I'm sitting in now. It's called Rock Hill, South Carolina. It's a suburb of Charlotte, North Carolina. And actually, I'm about a block from the university that I went here. I came here to go to college. I have over 70 first cousins. We were farmers and mill workers, and people had a lot of kids back in the day in the South. So I've got about 70 first cousins. And I'm a first college graduate out of both sides of my family. And so when I came to this town and graduated from college, the next day I took the real estate course. And
wow.
This is the only adult job I've ever had. And I'm a block from the college, and I'm next door to the building that I started in.
So you walked out the door and started where you are, and here you are.
And I'm next door to the building I started in, which was a small boutique company in '89. So really, when I look at that, I've really not made it very far in life when I'm next door. I'm next door to the street.
Stephen, here's the thing that's cool about that is you have one of the largest real estate businesses in the nation. And I do think that it warrants just pausing on that a minute, because that exemplifies going small to go big. That exemplifies being the biggest player and in a geographic area that maybe isn't the biggest, that you have a high influence in and a high sphere of influence in, right? I mean, that's probably what most people should do, right?
Yeah, my goal is to take over the greater Charlotte market. It's the same market center. It's the same MLS. I'm about 15 to 20 minutes outside that city. With that said, a town of 35,000, which has grown to about 70,000, is 90% of my success. Last year, we sold right at 800 homes, and 600 and something was out of that real small community. So I've always said you don't need 1 million people to be a successful real estate agent or a real estate team. It's also been probably cheaper and easier to be influential amongst those 35,000 people that have grown to about 70,000 than to be, huge in a big city. And so I've really done that in this town that I went to college in, and that's been real fun to do. And when you look at, I'm rereading right now a book that I know you've read, is Grit. I'm reading it for the second time because that's really all I've got. The book of Grit talks about talent versus consistency, talent versus grit, and I'm not talented. And I'm really a C minus student. And so, but I've got grit, and I've got 32 years of P&Ls now, profit and loss statements. And if I laid them all out here in front of us today and just took the dates off, you know, in my 32 years, we've probably been through 10 or 15 crises, right?
Right.
2 Gulf Wars, Y2K, 9/11, the housing market crash that took 6 years to get over, to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Vija, you cannot find any of those crises in my P&L, none of them. And each year production goes up, even during the housing crash. And then, as you and I know, as humans, I've had probably another 12 or 15 personal crises that mattered to me, didn't matter to anybody else, but mattered to me. And so you probably add those up, and there's 20 to 25 total crises. And I've never let those affect my job and my work. And I've got, as you have, and everybody on here has, I have friends who are doctors and pilots and other lawyers. And when I get on an airplane, I don't have to look down in the cockpit and ask the pilot if his love life is good or her love life is good. But I'd be damned, you probably got to ask a realtor how their love life is, and it will mirror their job.
Yes, yes.
It will mirror their job.
Oh,
and you live a big life, and I do too. And we who live big lives have actually even more crises.
That's right, Stephen. More people.
And people, who all become a crisis at some point in time. And so you wouldn't be able to find those in my work. And I think that's important for realtors to realize, because I do think other professions get that. You know, to be a doctor, you got to go to school 12 or 15 years. And maybe they teach that in medical school, that you've got to separate, you know, work and family and personal life. But we realtors, we're just a big mesh of all that. And that's been the secret. That's been the secret to Stephen Cooley's success, is grit, not talent, and not intelligence.
I think many people might disagree with the talent part, but Stephen, how have you shielded your business? Forget the personal crises. That's a whole thing. How have you shielded it from the Great Recession, from 9/11, from pandemics? You know, what have you done? You know, how have you been able to do that?
Yeah, Vija, I started building a team in 1992, and it was one of the first teams on the East Coast to ever be built. And so I started leading people. Now, it may have only been 3 or 4 people or 5 people. But at that time, I've always felt like I was the captain of the ship. And you can't be the captain of a cruise ship without sometimes captaining the warship, right? And the captain doesn't get to vacate the ship. If you use COVID as an example, the option to hide was not the captain's option, you know? Yep. And I showed up every day. I met the UPS guy here, the FedEx guy here, clients here. It wasn't an option for me to hide. And I felt that about every day. I was teaching a sales meeting during 9/11, and that was a difficult day for all of us, very difficult for my sales team, my people. Several of my folks had people in New York and they couldn't get them on the phone. You've got to be there for the people. You've got to be there for the people who work for you and the people who employ you, which are the sellers and buyers. And so I'm a time blocker, and I time block worry. I put it on my calendar at 9 tonight to worry about something. And I have found that if it's on my calendar to worry about it, I don't worry about it all day. And
so wait, you put it on your calendar for 9 at night?
It's at 9
why 9 at night?
It's a little mind game that I do, or whatever time of day is available. But I put that on there to go deep with that problem. And listen, and you know her. I raised a high D, strong-willed child.
Oh, she's next. Oh, I will be, by the way, for the record, everybody, I will be interviewing Olivia Cooley.
You tell her she was very difficult to raise.
Well, amen, sister. And that's why I'm going to interview her. That's all of us were.
She knew her purpose at birth. And so we've all been through those things, and we all continue to go through them every day. And I time block those things and worry or address the issue. You know, it may not say 8 p.m. worry. It may say 8 p.m. handle this problem. And if it's personal or whatever, and I wait to then to get it on my mind. And that's allowed me to not worry all day about things that I can worry about and time block those. That's one of the tricks to me not letting, which is to answer your question, letting things outside of what we do, affect my career and affect the people who work here and our clients and that kind of stuff. The other things is, I'm in it. This was my calling at 21 years old. And I'm in it during good market, bad markets. I loved the market where buyers could get any home they wanted at a discount. We had a great time with buyers when they could actually look at 10 homes and sleep on it. And I'm having a great time with sellers who can sell their home in 1 hour. You got to just love it all. And then these things really, really don't matter. And out of every market crash, market change, whether it be Gulf Wars, 9/11, Y2K, every one of those, real estate pulled the economy through. Other than the housing crisis of 07 to 12, real estate pulled us through all those other things and to be a part of that. So when you're watching the news and something's going on in the world, real estate's usually the only thing that doesn't tank when car sales and stocks and all that tank. So.
Okay, so it's 8:00 p.m. tonight and you've time blocked to focus or worry about a problem. What does that look like?
Yeah, so if it's a problem not worth worrying about, I hope I missed that appointment. But two things happen. Number one, that problem may have solved itself, or it may not be as important as it was when it landed in my lap. You know that, right? You know that. 5 hours, 6 hours later, it may not be as big as you thought it was, but then I time block it. And usually problems need your involvement. They need you to communicate with other people. They need you to handle whatever crisis it is. And then that's when I do it. It may be at 8 tonight. It may be at 5 today. It could be tomorrow morning. But I try not to be reacting to everything going on in my world all the time. I'm trying to either be proactive, which is one good thing, or if it hits me, to calm down, not be hysterical, not overreact, and let things simmer and then handle them at the appropriate time. That's just a mind game that I do with myself that moves me forward in life.
That is a massive takeaway for me. That is a very simple tactic that I will literally employ starting today because I have something in my mind. And what I find is that the brain doesn't like unfinished loops. And so by putting it on your calendar or putting it on a list, it helps us move on because our brain wants to store and circulate it and have it cycle and just go back and forth. So I love that, just dumping it on your calendar and moving on. That's really good. Wow.
Yeah, I still keep a paper calendar. I'm 54 years old. I've never missed an appointment in 32 years. It works for me. I've got all 32 years of those in a desk drawer. If we opened them and looked at some of the things I was going to worry about, you and I would just laugh our tails off at what I thought mattered, right?
That could almost be your business biography. Yeah, I mean, your business autobiography.
20s and 30s and 40s, the things I wrote down there to worry about, we would just cackle today over.
So you've had a paper calendar that you still have a copy of for 32 years. Would you say that it's just come natural to be that habit driven?
Yeah, it just works for me to lay a good old at a glance calendar out, see the week. I see the week, those are in 15-minute increments. And, you know, because this is such a big deal to me, being on here with you today, 3 o'clock Eastern time, I wanted to make sure I didn't have anything right at 2. And, you know, I've never found a digital camera, a solution to that. And pretty much everybody I've ever been in business with has missed a meeting. And I just know I've never missed a meeting in 32 years. I save them because they're fun. If anybody under 32 comes in the office, I open up the calendar and I tell them where I was the day they were born. It's really fun.
Oh, that's kind of crushing my soul a little bit because I'm not that much in school.
And if anybody says I was somewhere, I can prove where I was.
That's amazing. I'm actually blown away by that. But speaking of 32 years, let's go back. So I want you, this big team and this big production now. What I want to do is spend a little bit of time on the beginning. So here you are, you graduate from college, Stephen, and you know, I'm going to get into real estate. By the way, why real estate? Why did you?
Yeah, I wish I could say a light shone from heaven and told me that. And by the way, I can barely remember being 21 at 54 years old.
That good, huh? It was that good.
But I knew that I was a hard worker. I'd worked in the restaurant business to pay my way through college. I'd worked in some retail. I grew up on a farm, and all my uncles planted different crops. And the reason they had so many kids was each uncle got all the first cousins whenever his crop came in. And I was always told then I was the hardest working one of them. And so I knew to be in a business that rewarded you for hard work. And other than that, I can't, you know, at 21 years old, fresh out of college, I can't think of any other reason, but I knew to be in a business that would reward me for working harder than the average person. And real estate was the answer to that, I guess. So
you walk in the office, you sign up for real estate, and you're a hard worker, but you'd never done real estate. You didn't come from a real estate family. What did you do first? What did those first few months look like in the business? And walk us through that first year. I'm very curious about this.
Well, in 1989, there was no internet, no training, you know, no nothing. And so I feel sorry for those clients that worked with Stephen Cooley in 89 and 90 and 91. They got their houses closed and they didn't sue me. So I guess I did something right. The real estate company I worked for, which again's next door, has changed companies a few times, but they bought you 50 business cards, and they, you know, that normally would last you a year or two. And I got into business, interesting, December 31st, so January 1 of 1989. At the end of the year, my broker came to me and said I had gone through 5,000 business cards.
Wow.
And this is before you could talk to people on social media. This was before you could buy leads.
I remember, Stephen.
Yeah, so that was the only method. And I remember going to the mall and standing in the food court, which is where all the aisles come together, and handing out business cards. And I can remember going to the high school football game and standing where people bought their tickets and handing out business cards. And some wouldn't take my card. Of course they wouldn't. And I really, that didn't matter. Somebody asked me the other day, they said, I bet you never take no as an answer. And I said, I accept no all day long. Tell me no, and I move on to a yes person, right? Tell me, if you say no, I don't want to do business with you. Well, there's 75,000 other people in this town. Okay. And I've always moved on. And so I did that kind of thing to get my card out. That year in 1989, I finished that year #1 at that company, and they were the largest company in town at the time. And then the third year, #1 in the MLS that I'm still #1 in today. So
that's incredible.
I mean, giving out cards.
But so giving out cards, so people called you. I mean, that breaks all the rules, right? Like people actually called you from getting your cards. Did you do open houses?
And there were no cell phones, no texts, and no emails. So not only there was one office number. So not only did I have to get them to call that number, they then had to get through the agent on duty and ask for me. So that was a double challenge back then because there were no voicemails or phone transfers or cell phones or anything. So I just enough cards, 5,000 cards, over 100 people bought a home from me that year. And
your first year, over 100 people bought a home from you. Did you do open houses or anything else, or just hand out cards?
Yes, I purposefully, my mom will be so mad when I say this because I come from very religious people. I joined the largest church in town on purpose. And then I volunteered to be in charge of their church supper club at 22 years old, where you eat at somebody's house, couples. And I booked myself into all the powerful people in my town. And at 22, I was now at dinner with them. I just did everything I could to get into people's lives to be their realtor. And I hate to say this, but I can always talk about realtors because I'm one of them, right? And I've been a realtor for 32 years, and I showed a property this morning for one of my agents who's out with COVID. So I'm a realtor. It wasn't that hard to beat those lazy people.
Yeah, that's the sad truth, right? That is the sad truth. It wasn't that hard
to beat them. I wasn't talented. I knew nothing about real estate, and I really wasn't smart. So all it took was getting a card in their hand. And I say this today, I can have a great relationship with a past client. I can be Stephen Cooley in my town. And if you will hand them your card, you can break that relationship, right? Our relationships with past clients is only if their sister, their brother, their neighbor, their friend does not get into real estate. If you think people are that loyal, you don't understand human nature. So I broke that chain with them. I broke the relationship that they had with whoever they had it with back then. So.
Well, in many ways, we're professional breaker-uppers. I mean, that's what we do in one sense, right? We walk in and...
That is what we do. And it's just as easy today to break that relationship that they have with whatever competitor in your market that they have it with.
So you sell 100 homes your first year. I'm fascinated by this because we're a similar age, not quite the same. I didn't get into real estate till later than you, but one thing I know is when I even got into real estate in 2002, teams, if they existed, I didn't know about them. Even then, they weren't even a big factor. So I'm curious, what was the next step? Was it an assistant? Was it other agents? And how did your brain work? It's easy to look back now, Stephen. You and I both know now. Everyone's like, well, duh, we all know. Back then, no one thought like that. So I'm curious what was going through your head and what your order of hiring was.
I think when people, the first time I read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, I already had a big team. And I got to the page on the 7 levels of a team. And the good thing about that book, one of the many good things about that book, it was written from research. It wasn't written from philosophies of Gary Keller. And so I wasn't interviewed for that book, but I think all successful teams follow that path. And I knew to hire an assistant to take the minimum wage work off of me. And then I knew how to hire another assistant to take the $15 an hour work off me. Back then, 15 was a lot of money. And then I knew to hire another assistant to take the $25 work off me so I could stay all day long in the $2,500 an hour work. And I that to me was common sense from day one. And that is the building of a team that still works today. And so I had 3 amazing assistants by the age of 23 that were doing everything. But like when you go to a doctor's office and the doctor walks in and you get him for 10 minutes, you're there an hour, you get him for 10 minutes. I had that figured out at 23 years old.
Was there anybody around the country that you knew of at the time doing that?
No, I was turned into the South Carolina real estate commissioner, and they investigated me for 2 years on why a realtor would hire another realtor. And all 3 of those were assistants. They were not buyer's agents, but they were licensed, so they could be in the file. And they couldn't, and what they had me on back then is buyer agency had just come out, and they were saying that 2 realtors couldn't represent a client at the same time. I don't know. But anyway, it was 2 years and I won that. But I went down to our state capitol in front of the real estate commissioner, I think 4 times, to defend on why I would hire a realtor because I wasn't a broker in charge and I wasn't a company owner.
I can't stress enough to people watching this how unusual that would have been back in the day. I mean, it would have been unusual when I started in real estate, as far as I know, in the early 2000s, let alone I can only imagine, you know, that to hear Stephen say this, you guys who are a little younger, that is a brilliant mind back in the day. That is a groundbreaking, I would say trailblazing concept.
Thank you.
There, by the way, I just don't think a lot of people.
The median price point in my town at the time was 50,000, so you had to sell 100 to make a good living. You know, most of the realtors back then were part-time spouses and all that, and I was probably the only truly full-time realtor.
Do you think you were motivated by money? Do you think that was part of the drive?
I don't, you know. Biff, I don't have anything. If you and I built a factory to make these cups and we were able to employ 1,000 wonderful people on a production line to make these cups, 1,000 people have a job to make these cups. If we hired 3 or 4 salespeople to go out and sell these cups to keep the 1,000 people employed, I want those salespeople money motivated.
Yeah, that's right.
And I am a money motivated person. I'm proud to say I'm a money motivated person. I'm proud to say that I like to sit in the front of the airplane. I'm 6'4", I weigh 220 pounds. 3 people are miserable when I'm in coach. And it's okay. It's okay to be money motivated. And by the way, you can be money motivated and not greedy, and you can be money motivated and not ruthless. But listen, salespeople, you got to be money motivated. You got to.
I'm giving snaps. You should see me doing snaps right now.
Yeah, you got to be money motivated to be in sales, or be one of the wonderful people and work in the factory. Be one of the wonderful support people that people like I need to go out there and sell a lot of real estate. And so I do think that's really important. I started a health clinic here. We have over 10,000 patients. I'm a top volunteer financially and with my time with the Humane Society. You can do magical things with money. And, you know, letting my daughter graduate debt-free, buying her a safe car, giving her the wedding that she wanted, funding my granddaughter's college education on her first Christmas. Those are things that you can affect people with if you will make money.
Yeah, I love that so much, and I agree so much. We can impact our societies and our families so much. What kind of a health clinic is that you?
It's a health clinic called Affinity Health Clinic. It serves the uninsured, underinsured, and undocumented of our undocumented citizens of our community, providing all health care to them if they fit into those brackets. And so a huge need in our town. There was already one that it takes 6 months to get in. So we, not only me, by the way, but a wonderful group of people launched that and have that up and running. So
that's phenomenal. That's amazing. That's cool. What do you think got you to be money motivated?
Two things. I think I grew up poor, and I've heard Kinney's wonderful story, and it touches my heart because I grew up in a similar circumstance to that. And I had an incredible mom that's still alive and had her 80th birthday yesterday. But she would talk me into going into the city to the grocery store with her. And when I was 3 or 4 or 5 years old, and the only way to get me to go was she would ride me through the neighborhood where all the doctors live, and I'd hang out the window and look at their houses. I think there was a little sense of that. But let me just tell you the other thing, Vija. I'm purposeful, and I feel like what I want in life, I deserve. And once I sat in the front of the airplane, I vowed to work 12, 18-hour days, not to sit in the back again. Once I had a nice car, because I certainly had cars that wouldn't even run. Once I had a nice car, I vowed to always have a nice car. And so that keeps me money motivated. This is my jewelry collection. And there's a Rolex I want, and only if we hit our goals this year, which are going to be really difficult to hit because I set them high, will I get my first piece of jewelry. But I wanted one for about 20 years. So, you know, that's money motivated. And I'll be really proud to get it and own it and wear it. So
it's so funny. I want a Rolex too. And that it must be our generation. I'm dying for a Rolex, and I just haven't justified it. I know. It's weird.
I haven't justified it, and B, I want it for a while. Yeah. I want to want it for a while, and I want to pay for it by increased production, not past production. But I hope I see one on mine in your arms soon.
Ooh, I'm going to look for that. So do you want a little secret? I have wanted a Porsche 911 for years. And I set a very lofty goal for myself, income goal for myself. And I told myself, if I made X amount, what my goal is in a rolling 12-month period, that the day I found out about it, no matter where I was, I would leave wherever I was. If it's a meeting or whatever, I would walk straight to a dealership, and I would write a check for a Porsche. I have come so close to buying a Porsche, and I won't do it. I can't do it. I won't do it. If you ever see me driving a Porsche and you wearing a Rolex, you will know we hit our goals, and it's a very lofty goal. So there you go. There's my secret.
And when you coach people, first of all, I think we should hire money motivated people who are not greedy or ruthless. I think that should be the only people on your sales team. Money motivated people will tell you what they want to do with money, and they know. And that's one sign that they're motivated. The second part of that is I've got a 21-year-old on my team, and I've got an 80-year-old on my team, and everybody in between. And when you coach 20 to 30-year-olds who are just starting, you've got to coach them about materialistic things. They want their first nice car. They want their first nice watch. They want their first $1,500 suit. And you coach those 20-year-olds. If they want to talk about a Ferrari, let them talk about a Ferrari. In their 30s, if they made money in their 20s, they want to talk about home ownership, investment property ownership, starting a family, possibly talking about what it looks like for their spouse not to have to work, possibly talking about childcare at a high level. And that's what they talk about. And that's where the money motivation shows up in their conversations. In the 40s, if they've made money in their 20s and 30s, they're going to talk about wealth building. They're going to talk about kids' college education, which can cost $200,000 or $300,000. Their daughters' weddings that can cost $100,000 or more. That's the conversation. And then in their 60s, you can talk to them about retirement and charity, right? I go to my 25-year-old, he's gonna give you $5. If I go to my 70-year-old, she's gonna give you $1,500 or $2,000, because at your age, you're trying to buy your way into heaven, right? So,
that's right, people, my friend.
Money motivation will show up in their charity work. I want to give more money to the nonprofits and that, but you're not going to have that conversation with a 25-year-old.
Right, exactly. So, okay, so I like that. So one of your philosophies and what I would call DHBs, deeply held beliefs, is you hire money motivated salespeople. What are some other DHBs you have in business, Stephen, that you think have contributed to your success? So the non-negotiables, the big ones, the Stephenisms.
Yeah, they've you got to weed through the money motivated people and find the ones that aren't ruthless, that will lie for money, cheat for money, steal for money, people who have a good heart and a good soul. Once you get into business with people, you find that out pretty quickly. I have an intimate, what I call an intimate relationship with everybody on my team. I know their spouses, significant others, children. I know what's on their whiteboard. Pretty much by the end of the day, I've spoken, text, or emailed directly with all 45 of them. And I think you've got to find people who you want to be in business with. And that's a non-negotiable. The one thing we've moved away from this year is talking about goals. And instead of, you've got kids. I had a goal when Olivia was born, and it said, be a good dad. Right? And that was a goal. And I think I wrote it on a whiteboard, and she probably saw it. Well, that's a good goal. But what we're talking about right now on my team is commitment. To be a good parent, are you committed to getting up every morning and getting your kid up and cooking breakfast and taking them to school? Whether you feel good, whether you feel bad, whether you're mad, you're sad, it's raining, it's not raining, you're in one of those personal or business crises, are you willing to do that for your kid? Are you willing to, go to, if they sign up for football, are you willing to go to every game? And as we know, kids look for those commitments. It's not impressive to them to hear a goal of you being a good parent. The same thing applies to work. What are you committed to no matter how you feel? What are you committed to no matter what's going on? And is that lead generating an hour to 3 hours a day? Is that showing up at 8:30? Is that calling 25 people a day? What is the commitment that you're willing to do no matter what else happens in life? And that's what we did with our kids. We committed. We didn't make goals. We committed. And that's what we're talking about this year. And people who will commit to some things, some things that will launch their career and keep their career. And back to when we were talking about me, that's really all I've ever brought to the table is a commitment, and grit to show up every day. I'm looking for those people. And those are non-negotiables.
How do you find those people?
I think you have to weed through a lot of people. Doctors get weeded out in medical school, and lawyers get weeded out in law school. Realtors do not get weeded out by that 90-hour class they can take in their bed these days. Right. So you've got to look for you and them. And look for a drive and a desire. I'm also big on realistic goals. I don't want to be in business with somebody that says I want to be a billionaire, because they're not going to be one, right? Not for real estate sales. No. And realistic goals, but people are motivated. And then I just hate to say this, you got to go in business with them and see what you have in 90 days, right? See what you got. And every leader I've ever spoke with who had to let someone go knew on the 90th day, even if they stayed in business with them 3 to 5 years, every one of them have always told me they knew on the 90th day.
How many people, how many real estate salespeople would you say don't make it past the 90 days? You know, a percentage, or what does that look like for you?
I'm trying to do it was my fault for hiring them, not their fault for me hiring them. So I'm trying to really be better at that over the years. That's the one thing I think I need to improve on daily, is finding those people and know what you're looking for and not repeating the same. It's no different than dating. Have you ever seen someone date bad people over and over and over and over?
Of course, of course.
Well, I see team owners just keep getting in business with the same people they just fired or let go or didn't work out on their team. So I'm trying to really weed them down. So we probably have about a 25% fallout rate in that first 90, 100 days. And I've learned to hire on a temporary basis. You know, we're
I like that a lot.
Let's sit down on both our calendars and write this date, which is 90 days from now, and let's both meet and both decide whether we're going to stay in business with each other.
I like that a lot.
And I'm big on employment agreements and non-competes. So on that day, it's voidable. I'll put you back where I found you, and you know, we're going to be friends, and maybe I'll be your future realtor one day if you don't stay in real estate. So trying to have those conversations up front with people. Again, I think if there was it took 6 years of college to get these jobs, you wouldn't have to do that. But we do have to at some point crawl in business with people.
What's the longest either employee or sales agent you've worked with that's been on your team?
I have someone who's been on my team for 23 years, and
wow.
As you remember, a big team back in the day was maybe 4 agents and the team lead and a couple of admin. So of those 4, back in the day when I only had 4, I only kept it at 4 for years. 3 of those are still with me, Amy, Sharon, and Dale. And they're all over 10 years, 12 years, 14 years.
That's incredible. That's really, really impressive. That impresses me because I've been on the other side of that. Yeah. So I'm curious, how do you think your team would let's start with those 3 OGs. How do you think those 3 would describe you? If I was, going to pull them on and I said, how is Stephen as a leader? Why do you stick around? What does he do? And how do you think they would describe you?
Trust. I think loyalty at work lasts as long as everyone's benefiting everyone. I think it's trust. I trust them. When they come to me and tell me we're going to fire this client, we fire the client. When they come to me and say, look, we got to do this with commission, there's no questions asked. And they know, Vija, that I'm dialed in, that I'm running their business for them, and they trust that I put enough research into the business decisions that they now don't want to. Sharon, one of those 3, recently said at a group dinner, she said, all these things coming at real estate right now, whether it's Zillow or, new brands and all this stuff, she says, I just sit back and I know that Stephen has it handled. And so wow. I think I've never been asked that. So it'd be interesting for me to ask them that. But I think it'd just be trust. They know that I'm not making, I'm not shooting from the hip, hoping for the best. They know that's not me.
Right.
They've also come to me and said, Stephen, your heart is so big, we're your protectors. Because you'll let someone in, do you love life, or we are your protectors because you have a big heart. And probably that's one of the nicest things they've ever said is A, I have a big heart, but B is that they're my you got to get through them to get to me.
Well, I love that so much. And that comes from years and years of, you're right, of trust trust, and that foundation. Why do you think the newer agents that have joined you, what are they telling you that's attracting them to the group?
Well, I think everyone's looking for a good place to work. I don't think that comes into people's mind initially, not realtors. Honestly, people go to where the leads are, and people go to where the business is. And I can, remember where I'm located. We're in the inexpensive South, and $100,000 is a lot of money, but they can come in here their first year and net take home to their family or their personal life $100,000. That happens over and over and over again. I hate to sound shallow in saying that, but they go where there's big business. And
that's right.
And then to keep them, you've got to provide a safe work haven. I have a fabulous, this may be going too deep. I have a fabulous lady on my team. She worked at 5 car dealerships before she worked here. She was sexually harassed at 5 different car dealerships. You provide a safe place for people to work. You provide a place that they can make a living and not feel threatened, not feel intimidated. They need to know you as the leader, lead the group, that you're financially solid, and I share that with them. We have 2 years operating expenses in a savings account that the company owns that's managed by a trust. If another home didn't sell for 2 years, I can keep them employed. Those, as you know and I know, those things matter to people.
Wow, that's incredible. What did you have a downturn? Did something spur that on to have 2 full years managed by a trust?
No, and I didn't always have 2 years, but we've gotten bigger, and I made a lot of money in 32 years. So, I feel like I owe that to the company. And by the way, we're running at, $200,000 or $300,000 a month in expenses, not including cost of sale. So you owe that to the folks. I have a $5 million key life insurance policy on me that if I die, it pays everybody a year's salary. And then the rest of it goes to rebranding the company. So it continues after me. None of that matters when you hire people unless they already have a big career. But that matters if you're trying to hire Stephen Cooley or Vija.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I flat out asked Ben. I asked Ben a lot of those questions actually before. You're right, it does matter.
No doubt that you didn't.
Yeah.
And no doubt that you did, and you should. And it starts mattering to people. And so, we're trying to run a business here, and businesses do that, right?
What is your model, Stephen? What are your primary lead sources, and do you give your agents leads? Do you give them appointments? Is it both? What are they sort of a lead dependent agent? Do they lead generate on their own? Walk us through what that looks like.
They are lead dependent agents until I give them enough leads and they're here long enough that they have a database of repeat business, and then many of them, of course, my OGs are doing nothing but living off repeat business now, unless they decide they want to crank up their business, and then they hit a button and leads pour into them. But we as a company generate a quality 2,000 leads a month. And,
wow.
and we all know the process of processing those, lead converting those, filtering those, following up with those. You're in a river panning looking for the gold, right? And we all know those processes. We have all those processes in-house. This is what I've always said about repeat business. I'll never have enough repeat business to take the company where I want to take it. And no matter how, 12,000 past clients, by the way, some of them have moved away and some of them are dead, but 12,000 past clients are not enough for what goals I've set for the company. So we have 72 billboards in the greater Charlotte market. We do radio, television. I buy leads. If they're quality leads, we buy leads. I'm big on not buying bad leads, but we do buy quality leads. And so we are a lead generation company for our agents.
What are your goals for your business that 12,000 isn't enough?
I am the opposite of one of my role models, Ben Kinney. I do not plan on doing expansion. We are number one in our city with a 0.5% sales. And if I listen to my role models, well, you can take 8 or 10% of a city. So I'm interested in, when you hear Charlotte, North Carolina, the next words out of your mouth are Stephen Cooley. And I'm interested in taking that 0.5%, even though that's number one in MLS, I'm interested in taking that up to 8 or 10% on the same marketing platforms, on the same systems and that kind of thing.
I love that.
That's my goal, and whatever that looks like, but it should, if I want to test how much you can take in percentages in one big city. We'll see what that.
Well, I'll tell you what it looks like. It looks like a Rolex on your wrist driving a Porsche. That's what it looks like, my friend. That's what it looks like.
Please ask me next year if I have a Rolex. Will you write that?
I will. Yes, I'm going to. I don't even have to. It's imprinted up here. I love that goal because that's beyond. That's just I love that goal for so many things. So, what makes a good leader? I'm curious. You are a good leader. You've kept people for a long time. You employ a lot of people. What makes you a good leader? What makes anyone a good leader?
Yeah, I would say being the captain of the ship and what your expectations are out of the captain of the ship, and understanding that there's good weather some days, and that if it wasn't for bad weather, no one would need a leader or a captain. Mm-hmm. Your job really is to guide them through the tough times, and when it's good times, there's really not a big need for leadership. If we go to war, I'm in front and they can stand behind me, and I'll take the front of the bullets in the storm. If they need to know that out of their leader. I was watching this thing. I hate to compare me to a wolf, but I was watching this show about wolf packs, and you only lead the pack as long as you're the strongest.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So, and I don't mean that by being overpowering and dominant of them. I mean that as I'm the one that puts in the longest hours. I'm the one that if they've got a legal problem, a transaction problem, if a client is mistreating them or my staff, their go-to is, I've got to let you go. Stephan will call you back. And,
I love that.
And if we grow too big for that to happen, then we've probably reached our growth potential, and then we'll really enjoy the size we are. And so I find that over a long period of time, if killer bees hit, it's not an option for me to hide in my house. I'm going to get out there with
we had killer bees here in Washington.
I know y'all do. Y'all need to keep them there, by the way.
Oh.
But, tough times is when leaders show up.
So how did you show up last year? I'm curious. That quarantine hit. It's easy to look back now and say, real estate did fine, right? But in the moment, we didn't know that. What did this look like? What were you like? How would your team have described you last April?
They would describe me as here. They would describe me as involved. We were doing Zooms almost daily. I sectioned people off and the public off into scared to death. And how do you talk to scared to death people? Sellers, buyers, and agents. proceeding with caution, me, right?
Yeah.
And we're in the South and South Carolina. I don't know if you watched this on the news, all the people who did not give a crap. And understanding how all those felt and dealing with them correctly, from sellers terrified to have a showing to sellers that said, you better show my house every day. I don't care what the government says. And just leading people through that, and knowing my agents all fell into that group too. And we all know you're in this group until you lost a loved one, and now you're in this group. And
right.
Understanding that about people, and all crises are different, but they're all really kind of the same. And they all have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah.
We had 8 out last week with COVID. And so, it's still going on, and you just have to lead people. You have to lead people through it. And you're right. A year ago, you and I were on Zooms where we were told that the world was ending.
Yeah.
Real estate was going down the tubes with everything else. And so, you and I were hearing, not from one source, but all sources that advise us as leaders in real estate, that we were doomed with the rest of the world, the rest of industry. So you had to have that reserve in the bank. You had to I paused and I called the billboard company and I said, you got 2 options: take them down or pause charging me until I see what happens. Renegotiating rates, and the billboard company cut the rates for 4 months and a half. Lucky we didn't need that, but as we talked about in the shift, you got to look at everything. And it was just important for me and for them to see me here, me dialed in, me understanding how they felt.
Our time's up. This has been just as fantastic of an hour as I thought it would be. Last question for you, Stephen, is what do you want to share with everybody who aspires to be Stephen, who you have a great life by design, you've built a great life, you're doing this by choice. You probably don't have to work anymore, I'm guessing. And so what would you share with everybody who looks at that and says, I want some of that?
Yeah, I think that when you want to make enough money, a lot of money quick, you need to be a real estate agent, and you might need a little help. You do need a little help, just like I did. And then it's okay, and you shouldn't do it too quickly. There's some financial goals you should hit. You got to take care of yourself first. And before you employ a lot of people, you got to be financially sound. You got to promise people a career, even if you have a bad month or two. So I would say, if you're looking at becoming a large team owner, be a good, strong listing agent with some help, and check a lot of financial boxes off, and move through that and really understand the industry at a high level. Because once you become a leader, and not just a leader of 1 or 2 people, but a true leader puts all those people, including their payroll, before you.
Yeah. And
done too early probably will not work out long term. And so don't rush it. Rush your sales, rush having some good assistance and help, but get a lot of sales under your belt, and be ready to be a leader, because they're going to expect a lot out of you. And then rise to the occasion, read a lot of books, be in masterminds, go to great things. I just came back from Lance Logan's office. You know what game changer that is in your life.
It's awesome.
Be ready to do those things, and then again, I just say don't rush it. Get a lot of things done before you put all other people before you, and that would be my number 1 recommendation. And just to say, no matter where you want to be in real estate, it's the best industry in the world. We provide shelter, we provide a tax haven, we provide a wealth builder to people. Love that, fall in love with it. I'm married to it, and like a marriage, you got to re-fall in love.
That's right.
And love the industry and know what we do for the public. And it's an incredible service that we provide, and be proud of it. It's not going anywhere. It's not about to end. And if that's your calling, then get in it, be dialed in, be committed, and make a lot of money.
I love it. Stephen Cooley, thank you. Can't thank you enough. And I know everybody enjoyed it. I can tell by the feedback. By the way, Ari Smith has already texted me hookups for Rolex and Porsche dealers. So thank you, Ari. Stephen and I will definitely follow up with you on that. We love Ari. Sure. That's awesome. Thank you very much. And everyone else, we will see you next Wednesday at noon Pacific time, 3 Eastern time. Appreciate everybody spending an hour with us once again. All right. Have a great week, everyone. Bye.